special presentation.
Remembrance means more than recording the dates and places of past conflicts. It means continuity and connection between the sacrifice of one generation and the freedom of the next. It means a kind of immortality for those who face death, so we didn't have to. Because wars end, but the march of time never does. Canada's last veteran of the Great War died almost a decade ago. And as the ranks of those who survived the Second World War and Korea grow smaller, our living memory grows fainter. All while cracks appear in the stable world they built, and that veterans of more recent wars have risked their lives to protect. With every year that passes, it gets more important to remember so that history doesn't fade into myth. It's our honor to shoulder that duty beyond the cenotaph on November 11th, to read and listen and learn about the cost and glory of their sacrifice on the home front as well as the front lines, so that our collective memory remains strong and the light of their courage remains undimmed. Hello, you are looking live at the National War Memorial here in the nation's capital as we prepare for the National Day of Remembrance special here in Ottawa. It is a chilly day here, as it always is on this day, as people gather, line the streets here around the National War Memorial to remember. About -6, but remember, people line up starting around 9:30 a.m. The official ceremony gets underway in a little bit, so they will be chilly for a while as they gather to remember with us and to listen to the dignitaries in the ceremony as it gets started. Hello, good morning. I'm Rosemary Barton here with you in the nation's capital for our special Remembrance Day coverage. A privilege to host on this day in particular as we remember all those who served, the sacrifices they and their families made. And to help us through that coverage for the next couple of hours, two of our CBC reporters talking with people in the crowd and of course the veterans who show up unfailingly every year to participate as well. David Thornton and Hannah Thibodeau both will be helping us through the next couple of hours. And David Thornton is in the crowd talking to some people about why they've made the trip down here, maybe on a day off, maybe not, David, to participate.
Yeah, Rosie, hundreds of people are here, all ages and all places. I got someone from
Regina, Saskatchewan.
Regina, Saskatchewan.
Ottawa.
Toronto.
St. Paul, Alberta.
Alberta.
Ottawa.
And I have Brenda Lord, with us. And where are you from, Brenda?
Chatham.
And you recently discovered that you had a connection to someone who served in Canada's wars. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just found out that my uncle, my mother's oldest brother, was in the war and was part of the group that liberated Holland and met his soon-to-be wife and brought back a war bride to Canada.
And when did you discover that?
Just Saturday.
My goodness. And what? How did you feel? How did you react when you discovered that?
I thought, why didn't I know this? And being a child at the time when I knew my uncle and just probably had heard about it, but it just sort of fades away when you're a child. And then just having to have been spending time with my mother on Saturday, and I said we were coming up for the first time to be here in Ottawa for Remembrance Day, and she started talking about my uncle, and I said, why didn't I know this?
So you happened to be coming to the capital and,
yes.
and you discovered that
Yes.
connection.
So it's even more meaningful being here today and having my uncle in my thoughts while we're here today.
You're remembering him today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
Thanks.
Okay, David, thank you for that. David will be with us and in the crowds. I'm sure this is David's first Remembrance Day in the nation's capital as well. And one of the things that we've noticed is that the crowds have grown substantially over the years. We'll see what kind of turnout we get today because it is rather chilly here in Ottawa, but lots of people do show up and take the time. And Hannah Thibodeau, this is one of the days where she goes and talks to some old gals and fellas about the contributions they've made and people that you see every year year, Hannah, and that you talk to and have made connections with.
Yeah, absolutely, Rosie. This, I feel, is my most important job of the year, and I feel so privileged to be able to cover Remembrance Day, and in particular talking to those veterans of the Second World War in particular, because those numbers are dwindling. You say the crowd numbers are growing, which is fantastic, because I think it's important that they learn every story that these veterans have to tell. But in fact, the numbers of Second World War veterans are dwindling. In fact, there's about 33,000 who are still alive, and those are March numbers. But today, I've already had a chance to speak with one of those veterans. He's 97. His name is Bill Anderson, and you're going to get a chance to hear his story. Rosie, it's amazing. He was in Normandy when they stormed the beaches, so I'll let him tell you all of the details of that, but he's really excited, and we're looking forward to be able to talk to him and to others as a part of the dignitaries who are really the ones who deserve this red carpet down here.
Okay, Hannah, thank you for that. Of course, it's the 75th anniversary of D-Day this year, and Hannah's quite right that the number of veterans in this country, veterans of the Second World War, is declining at a very rapid pace. There are 20% fewer than last year, about 10,000 fewer veterans than last year overall, if you can believe that or not. And as they get up in age, fewer of them obviously able to come down here and attend this special ceremony too. In case you don't know where we are in the nation's capital, the National War Memorial is situated sort of in the heart of the downtown, connecting Parliament Hill to the National War Memorial, and streets sort of spinning out from all over that memorial. And as we've said, this is really the point of reference, the focus point for this Remembrance Day ceremony here in the nation's capital, and it happens to come on a special anniversary for this memorial as well. It was 80 years ago this year that King George VI officially unveiled the memorial, originally built to mark Canada's sacrifice in the First World War.
Without freedom, there can be no enduring peace, and without peace, no enduring freedom.
Peace and freedom, those values symbolized by two bronze figures sitting atop the granite arch. Marching through the archway, 22 sculptures representing the Canadians who have answered the call to serve. And directly in front lies the tomb of the unknown soldier, a poignant reminder of the 116,000 men and women who fought and died for their country. Over the years, the memorial has been rededicated to honor all Canadians who have served in times of war. The Boer War, the Second World War, the Korean War of the 1950s, and the decade-long mission in Afghanistan. And here are the crowds again gathering around that memorial. Incredible to think that it came to be 80 years ago, and that it has since been used as this gathering point for Canadians who can make it here to Ottawa to pay tribute to those who sacrificed so much through all those many conflicts. And to help us in our coverage today, Tim Cook. He is a historian at the Canadian War Museum. He's an author of 11 books, which I didn't believe, but then he told me it's true. His most recent book is called The Secret History of Soldiers. Good to see you again.
Thanks.
Nice for you to come and join us every year, as you usually do. Let's talk about that memorial for a moment. Pretty incredible to think that it was 80 years ago, that it was erected to remember really the First World War, and now it's taken on new meaning, but not always easily, perhaps, is fair to say.
Yeah. Of course, the Great War, the First World War, the war to end all wars. We thought that would be it.
Yeah.
Such a terrible sacrifice from Canada, 620,000 Canadians who served from a country of 8 million. And we paid 66,000 lives lost. And so they built the National Monument. Of course, they built Vimy Ridge overseas, all of the cemeteries there. But this is in the heart of the nation. And the architect was Vernon March. He was a British architect.
Yes.
He won the commission in 1925, and then he died in 1930. And his 6 siblings finished the monument. And behind us is Confederation Square. Didn't look like that 80 years ago. It was a mess, a welter of roads and rail lines. mines. And so they had to clear out this entire space. And when it was unveiled in 1939, ironically, of course, it was only about 6 months before Canada went to war again. And I think over time it's taken on a really prominent position in the memorial landscape, in what it means to be Canadian, and especially this day, Remembrance Day.
And it's called the response.
It is the response, and I think that captures it nicely. Canadians going off to war again. Second War, 1.1 million Canadians serving. The Korean War, the South African War, Afghanistan. Those dates have been added to the memorial. It changes over time, and perhaps most powerfully in 2000 when we brought the unknown soldier back. And I think it has become a very powerful and evocative focal point for us.
Yes. Okay, Tim, we're going to obviously keep you here through the next couple of hours as we continue our coverage. But one of the other things that we are doing here today is trying to sort of give the voice back to some of the soldiers who were killed, who were sacrificed during these many wars that we're paying tribute to. And so we have their letters, their memories from their past, letters that they sent home to their family, to their friends, to their siblings. And we've collected some of those stories from across the country, and we're going to share them with you, these soldiers who have died but left these words behind.
My name is Dale Patton. I'm going to be reading from a letter written by my husband's uncle, Lieutenant Edgar Patton. This letter was written from Grantham, England on April 15th, 1917, just 3 days after the end of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. Dear Mother, I have had no mail from home since coming here, so it may be that the boats are not crossing as often as formerly. Our work is pure tactics. We are given a map of the country and are told that we have to defend a position against a force advancing from a certain direction. Then we go over the ground, make a report, and finally tell how we would place our battalion, Lewis guns, ammunition, etc. I was certainly pleased to see that the Canadians took Vimy Ridge. That will be a landmark in our history of the war.
So powerful to hear directly from people who served and who didn't return home, and from the people still related to them. And we're going to hear more of those kinds of letters, and that's part of the way that we try and keep all of this alive. I know you've done lots of work with the letters and the archives of people serving. I want to talk about the poppy. There was some controversy over the weekend with some comments made by Don Cherry about who does and does not wear the poppy. So remind us what this is supposed to symbolize and why it's important to wear it.
Yeah, well, it's a flower of remembrance. Of course, the poppy signifies, for Canadians and for others, our desire to commemorate, to mark, and to reflect upon those who served and sacrificed. And of course, it comes largely, the imagery comes from John McCrae's powerful poem In Flanders Fields. And the poppy features there. It was adopted by Canadians in 1921, and we've worn it since that day. And personally, just walking around Ottawa, I've seen more people wearing the poppy. I think it's a powerful symbol for Canadians. It's a reflection on all of those Canadians who have served this country. We talked about 620,000 serving in the First World War, 1.1 million in the Second World War, 30,000 in Korea, 40,000 in Afghanistan. All of the families, the next of kin, the mothers, the parents, but Canadians as well, to mark this important act of service. And the Canadians in the two world wars, and ever since, they came from across the country. Every town, every city, every village. And that's what's happening today with Remembrance Day. English Canadians, French Canadians, Indigenous Canadians, New Canadians, all coming together to serve in Canada and serve overseas. And I think it's a very powerful symbol for Canadians, and it is one that, of course, we wear in the week or so before Remembrance Day, and then most of us take it off, and people putting it in poignant places. We'll see that today, laying it on the unknown soldier or in their own communities. It is a sign of Canada.
Okay, and we'll talk more about the different kinds of people that served and why they did that and how that unfolded. But we want to give you a sense too of who and what we are remembering today, and we'll do it by showing you how these wars have unfolded and the kinds of casualties that have happened. So sometimes when you just see those numbers, it can be shocking to think of the number of people who were hurt, injured, or killed in all those many conflicts that Canada contributed to. And the person who is today in charge of Canadian troops is the Chief of the Defence Staff, and we find him now with Hannah Thibodeau.
Thanks, Rosie. Yes, I'm joined by the Chief of Defence Staff, Jonathan Vance. Thank you for your time today, a very important day. We were just showing the numbers of people who have lost their lives in wars over the past, decades. When you come to this service, what is your message to the veterans?
Well, to veterans and to serving members, honestly. You see Canadians come out in their thousands every year to remember and to honor the service of those who served. So we need to hear that. It is a message to those who are serving to say the country honors your service while you're serving, and it's a message to all those who have served that will remember you every day. That's a very important thing, and it's a wonderful thing that we mark it, so poignantly every year. But it's something as well that we should remember every day. The troops, we've got close to 3,000 troops serving around the world right now on virtually every continent. And that service is honorable and important to the country.
Absolutely. And this is your 5th year as Defence
It
Minister.
is. Not Defence Minister.
Sorry, excuse me. As Chief of Defence Staff. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that. As Chief of Defence Staff. This could potentially be your last service as Chief of Defence Staff, but what do you think if that is the case when you come to these?
There's a couple of different questions in there, Hannah.
I know.
I'll tell you what, this is a personal moment for all of us who stand here, and to stand before that war memorial on behalf of the members of the Canadian Armed Forces and lay that wreath is a moment of singular humility and honor. It's an honor to serve the troops. It really is. And for me, I think of those close to me who I lost. I think of my dad, who served for 37 years. He's gone now. And I think of the troops who are serving now.
So
It's a personal moment.
It is a personal moment for you, and we want to thank you for your service as well. Chief of Defence Staff, Jonathan Vance, thank you for your service and thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Hannah. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi, my name is Major Jamie Phillips, and I deployed to Afghanistan in 2007 as an artillery troop commander. I would send occasional emails home to my family and friends updating them on what I was up to, and this is an excerpt from one of those. From Jamie to family and friends. Subject, update from the desert. Hi all, things here are going well, finally starting to heat up. We are in a more austere position right now, meaning no showers, no laundry, and lots of dirty campers. But standards for cleanliness have decreased anyway. It's better though, a lot more interesting. I hear we may actually have even been mentioned on the news, but reports are still unconfirmed. I'm starting to look forward very much to coming home, although there's no doubt in my mind that the heat in Petawawa is much worse than the heat in Afghanistan. Take good care, everyone. Jamie.
Sort of unusual to see a soldier read something that they wrote in Afghanistan, now back safely home and reflecting on that time and that service there. And of course, today is in large part to remember those who sacrificed, made the ultimate sacrifice, who died during this conflict. But it's also about remembering those who have served, who continue to serve, who might be back here in this country with injuries, some that we can see and some that we can't. And that's what we want to take a moment to think about, because that's very much related, of course, to the Afghan mission, what we saw sort of in the aftermath of that mission.
Yeah. Behind us, of course, in the memorial chamber are the Books of Remembrance. 118,000 Canadians killed in wars in the 20th and 21st century. But there are no books for the wounded. And we should remember in our wars, we had at least 200,000 Canadians serving with wounds. And if we think of Afghanistan, 158 dead, I think at least over 1,000 additional wounded.
Yeah.
And so we should remember them as well, those with physical wounds. And I think we have a better sense now, too, of those with the invisible wounds, what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder. It wasn't known as that in the two world wars, but this is something to reflect upon today as well. I think those Canadians who carry the scars of war, and their families do as well, the next of kin, the mothers, the fathers, the children, the wives, the husbands. That is a part of this day. It's a complex day, but it's one where I think we should broaden our remembrance to those who serve, those who sacrifice, and those who continue to carry on those proud traditions.
Okay. Tim, let's go to David Thornton now. He is in the crowd and he's talking to people about why they've come down and what matters to them on this day. David.
Rosie, you know, one of the things that we always see at these ceremonies are the little mementos that people walk with to these ceremonies, you know, whether it be the letter, whether it be the picture. And I have a guest with me, Judith Comden, who has some of those mementos on her, in her hands. Judith, tell us about the picture that you're holding.
This is my Uncle Bobby. We're from Newfoundland, and during the war, he ran away from home, and he joined the British Navy.
And you were telling me that he was 17 when he ran away.
He was just 17, yes, and he ran away from home. And being in Newfoundland, there was access to the British Navy, whereas my father, who's over here, he joined the Canadian Navy.
Absolutely. And, you know, I see that it says missing, presumed killed, unfortunately.
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened to
Apparently
him?
he was blown up in the English Channel, and that was 3 days after his 18th birthday. So.
And you hold, tell us about the importance of holding on to these mementos. What is the significance for you?
Well, it's part of my personal family's history, you know, and my mother was pregnant at the time, and when she had her next child, my sister, she named her Roberta after Uncle Bobby. But it's a reminder of how we need to learn to keep the peace with one another so that wars not come to our shores, you know, and lucky enough we haven't had any, you know. So
thank you so much, Judith.
No problem. Thank you.
It was rough going in, like we were sick. We were all glad to see land. And we saw the land, and it was very eerie feeling because it was quiet. There wasn't any movement. There wasn't even a bird chirping or nothing. The first guy off the front of the boat, he ran, and everybody followed. They told us, don't stop. You stop, you're a dead man. They'll kill you. And I looked down the beach, and there was 10 boats in the water, and there was a couple of them on fire. Most of them had blown up. Some of them had been turned sideways and just floating into the water. There was men in the water struggling to get out and being fired at and being shot at by these machine guns. It was just a terrible sight.
As you see, we have dug deep into our archives to try and resurrect some of these voices of soldiers who have now passed on, giving us their impressions, their memories of what they lived through. And of course, there are no veterans of the First World War still living. And there are, as we've talked about, fewer and fewer of the Second World War. But talking about these things and hearing directly from veterans, so important to how we understand this day and how we understand really our history as a country.
That's right. 33,000 Second World War veterans left from about 1.1 million.
Yeah.
So we rely upon those recorded accounts, on those letters that we are reading today at the Canadian War Museum where I work, the artifacts, the works of art. This is the stuff of history. The world wars are behind us now, but they still with us. They haunt us, I think. That's what we're here today. I think we're trying to come to grips partially with the terrible carnage and loss, the incredible pride we feel. It's a complex day. It's a messy day often. And of course, we have newer veterans. We have our peacekeeping veterans. We have veterans of Afghanistan and now Iraq. And I think this is a day of reflection. It's also a day of history. I mean, I can't think of we were talking about other holidays. Christmas is something very different, and Easter and Thanksgiving, and there used to be Victoria Day, and it still is, sorry, but they don't mean the same thing. No. There's something about this. These are our stories, and I think maybe that's important. Across this country, we're seeing it here at the National the Memorial, but in all the cemeteries across the country, all the memorials, every town, every city, every village, Canadians are coming together, reflecting on the past, in the present, and perhaps thinking about the future.
And it is, as I said, the 75th anniversary of D-Day, but we're also sort of in between some major moments. Last year, you and I talked about the armistice, the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, and next year, something you're preparing for in your job at the War Museum is the 75th anniversary of the Second World War.
That's right, yeah.
So they're all these moments in our history that are important to mark and remember.
Yeah. Of course, there is an anniversary right now, the Battle of the Scheldt. The Canadians fought in the 75 years ago. It ended on November 8th. It's a battle we don't really know about, but it was absolutely crucial. 1st Canadian Army was to open up Antwerp, and they had to fight through the Scheldt area in the Netherlands. Terrible fighting through mud, polder fighting in reclaimed land from the sea. They fought the Germans hard over a full month. About 6,000 Canadians were killed or wounded there, and it's absolutely crucial to understanding the Second World War to know that the Canadians did this. We reflect often on D-Day, really important, the fighting in Normandy, but then we often, we don't really know the battles that follow. The Battle of the Scheldt, the 75th anniversary, it's important to know.
Okay. All right, things are going to start to get underway in terms of the official program in not too long. Of course, the Prime Minister will be here, but here's a little sense of what you can expect over the next hour or so. For the next 2 hours, Canadians will pause, reflect, and say thank you to those who have served. As a lone soldier plays the crisp bugle sounds of the last post and the 11th hour strikes, 2 minutes of silence will honor the memory of Canadians who fought and died in conflicts. The Act of Remembrance will be read in English, French, and Blackfoot and Algonquin language. Following the prayers, dignitaries will lay wreaths at the foot of the memorial, including the Governor-General, the Prime Minister, and the Silver Cross Mother, representing all mothers of fallen soldiers. And the ceremony concludes with the thousands of Canadians here applauding our veterans as they lead the march through the streets of Ottawa. And you can see that everyone is starting to gather here as the official ceremony is going to get underway, not too long. Soldiers representing different units, different places in the country, different parts, of course, of the Canadian Forces. You can see veterans there, Indigenous veterans. They are also represented here. They played a big part in our battles as well. And people starting to line up in the streets as well to pay part of this ceremony. Hannah Thibodeau met and is speaking with the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Lawrence Mccauley. Hannah, over to you.
Thanks, Rosie. I'm joined by Veterans Affairs Minister Lawrence Mccauley. Now, Mr. Mccauley, you've seen a big difference since when you first attended these Remembrance Day services. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, of course, number one, I think it's observed much more now than it was 25 years ago. I was just at an event where there were hundreds of children right across Canada come to learn just what Veterans Affairs is all about. I think we understand so much more about what the veteran went through, like PTSD. We understand what that is. I don't believe we had a great understanding of that 25 years ago. We have done a lot to help veterans, but there's a lot more to do. There's always more to do. The more we learn, there's more to do.
And one of the things is we're seeing dwindling numbers of Second World War veterans as well. So how do we still get the message out there that people have to pay attention to this? Because we're not even involved in many different in the field right now either.
Well, I think not being involved in many things in the field is a good thing, but the fact is I think we've come a long way on indicating to our young children, in fact, what it's all about. If you don't know your history, you're apt to repeat it. We heard that many times, and without a doubt, as I said, I was with a large group of children this morning from right across the country. You see that everywhere in the country. You see young people involved. The idea is to take the message back, to understand what veterans really went through. And they are truly taking an interest in this, and that is so important.
What do you think about on Remembrance Day, you personally?
Well, of course, I was here 25 years ago and traveled the footsteps of veterans it can be very emotional, because you really realize what immense torture they went through. It's unbelievable, really, when what humans do to humans and what humans will do to preserve peace and democracy. It's really quite a privilege to be able to see that firsthand, and I had that privilege.
Lawrence Mccauley, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
My husband Jan served with the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion in World War II. And this is a letter he sent to his friend, December 27, 1943. Dear Jack, I received your parcel about a week before Christmas. I would have sent you a letter a while ago, but at the time I got your parcel, we were just going out for a week's training. In the last month, we have been out to the airfield 4 times, and each time the jump has been cancelled because of rain or some weather trouble. That takes more out of a guy than actually jumping. I've had a bit of a lucky streak in gambling lately, so I'm quite flush with cash. I'll save that for my big leave. Well, that's all for now, Jack. Looking forward to hearing from you again soon.
So some of these letters very poignant, and some of them just a reminder that there were, guys over there trying to have a bit of fun when they could. Tim, you said you met this gentleman.
Yes, I had. He was vibrant. He was a joker, and we talked about his experience. If I remember correctly, he was a Dutch Canadian. He had immigrated from the Netherlands here, and then enlisting and serving to liberate the Dutch at the end of the war. Isn't that something? And to think of the Dutch, I guess, they have never forgotten the liberation.
No,
they have never forgotten the Canadians who gave them back their country. There remain very strong bonds there.
Mm-hmm. Of course, every year there is a Silver Cross mother, a mother that is supposed to sort of embody the loss that so many mothers have felt throughout Canada's sacrifice and Canada's wars. And I was able to meet with this year's Silver Cross mother, Ren Sampson Daw, to talk about the death of her son, Matthew, which happened in Afghanistan in 2007. Here's a little bit of that conversation.
What was it like to raise 4 boys who would all then become soldiers, follow in Dad's footsteps? What was that like?
Well, you can imagine what it's like to have 4 boys growing up in the same house. It was at times chaotic, noisy, but we always try to have a loving, stable environment, and you don't think of what they're going to be doing when they're older, really. And then the military involvement came on gradually.
Tell me what Matthew was like. So he was the youngest. He was the last to enter the military. Mm-hmm. I guess he admired his big brothers and his dad, and that was part of it. What was he like?
Yeah. Oh, he was funny, intelligent, mischievous, loved the arts too. He was an actor. He was an incredible mimic. He would imitate his dad.
Matthew Daw was killed July 4th, 2007. He was on a mission with his platoon to find the maker of an improvised explosive device that had killed 3 members of his team just 2 weeks before. Daw's vehicle hit a powerful roadside bomb. He was killed along with 5 other Canadian soldiers and an Afghan interpreter. He was one of the highest-ranking members to be killed at the time, a decorated soldier and platoon commander.
Matthew had promised me he would come back. And it's silly, but you hang on to that, and you don't think it's the same way that they go hiking or skiing or mountain biking, and you never think that they're going to get hurt badly, because they're your children.
On Remembrance Day, when you go to lay that wreath, what will you be thinking of?
I think at that particular moment I'll be thinking of all the other mothers, really, because that's what the part of your duty is. In Ottawa, I think I'm there for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there will be a big part of me, which I try to keep a little more private. That will be for him, obviously. But I'm not there just for me there. I'm there for all the mothers. So, and all the other vets, with the people of other wars. I think it's more than that. It's bigger than that.
A privilege to meet you. You're
Thank
full
you.
of grace.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
And the Silver Cross Mother, Ren Sampson Dawson, will arrive when the dignitaries arrive. But right now, you're watching the Veterans Parade, which happens sort of in and around the National War Memorial, and it's really veterans of all wars, all peace operations, who are welcome to march in this parade. They'll do this now, and they'll do this at the end, and that's sort of the moment where people in the crowd can applaud, look at them, and send words or messages of support directly to veterans who make a point of being here and want to be part of that moment of pride, really, as they walk in the streets here in downtown Ottawa. Let's go to David Thornton. He is also in that crowd as he's watching to see the reaction to some of these people coming out for the parade. David?
Yeah, Rosie, a lot of people here have some sort of connection to the Canadian Forces, and that's what is bringing them down here today. People like Letty Wong. Letty, thank you so much for joining us today. What do you think of the ceremony here in the Capitol? This is your first year here.
Yeah, this is my first year at the Capitol one. I've been going to the ones like everywhere around the country with my brothers since growing up, but then this one is definitely much more like the multitude of people, and just, yeah, like the vibe for it is very different. Like everybody is here for a reason, and you can definitely feel the sense of freedom here in that sense, yeah.
So we were talking about connection to Remembrance Day. What's yours?
So with my two brothers being part of the forces, it definitely reminds me that there are still people fighting for freedom, and this is something that is, we all should be proud of as Canadians, that we do have this day to do this.
So you have two brothers. Where are they serving?
They're in different parts of the country. One's in Calgary and the other one's in St. Catharines.
Do you want to give a quick shout out to them?
Hey, brothers!
Okay. All right. Well, and just finally, just summing up for people, what does a Remembrance Day mean to you? Why is it so important?
I think there's people all over the world that's still fighting for freedom, and it's not something that's just the past, it's the present too. So that's why it's so important to all of us.
Letty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job. Yeah.
The letter I am going to read was sent to my mother in April the 17th of 1945, the day after we liberated the town in the Netherlands called Leeuwarden. We have liberated a number of towns. You never saw anything like it in all your life. Once the Germans have been driven out and you enter the town, they crowd around the cars so badly you can hardly move. Your car is just one big bouquet of flowers that have been given you. The girls kiss you and the men shake your hands off. They are so happy, they cry. You never saw anything like it before.
Tim, that's an incredible story. Donald White has enlisted at 16, wasn't really allowed to, just did it anyway.
That's right.
And lived through all of that.
Yeah, and I think of all the generations that have done that in the First World War, in the Second World War, in the Korean War. One thing I want to come back to with your interview with the Silver Cross Mother, where she said that she was representing all the mothers, and that it's a public event, but she said she was holding back some of those private thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really a day when we do that. We are publicly coming together. We are marking service and sacrifice. But we're all thinking about someone, I think, and often many people in our community, people we've run into. I think of my grandfather who flew in the Second World War. I know everyone has someone there, and I think that's one of the powerful things about this day, that we're connected. This is the national ceremony, but it's happening across the country. And isn't that a powerful thing, to think about how the past is bleeding into the present and shaping what we are doing and reflecting upon today?
One of the things I actually like most about this day, one of the benefits of social media, because there aren't always benefits, is the way that people use that to post pictures of their family members, people that they know who have served either from a long time ago or very recently. And it gives you such a sense of how everyone is connected in some way, whether they are recent immigrants or long-time Canadians. Everyone has some sort of connection.
Well, think of there are millions of Canadians who have a link, just a genealogical link to someone who served in the First World War or the Second War. And then I think of all the other Canadians who have come to this country over the last 50, 75, or 100 years. We have veterans from the German forces, the Italian forces, the Austrian forces, Australia. We don't often make space for them on this day, but maybe it's something for us to reflect upon and in this incredible ceremony that is bringing us together in a very public way, but also requires us to be quite private as well.
And as we mentioned before, this is the 75th anniversary of D-Day and the Battle of Normandy. I want to show you some pictures from back in June when so many of the veterans, including the gentleman you just saw there, Don White, made that trip back to Courcelles-sur-Mer in France to walk on the beach where they would have landed. Remember that moment on Juno Beach was a significant moment for the Allied forces. They advanced the furthest inland of any of those forces, who landed on June 6, 1944. They suffered very high casualties in that mission, but it was central to determining what would happen, how that war would end. Over 13,000 more of our soldiers were wounded in Normandy. And so many more died there as well.
Yeah, I think D-Day has become a focal point for the Second World War. We should remember, of course, we served in the Italian campaign, 100,000 Canadians. We were in the Far East, the Navy, 100,000 sailors, 250,000 Canadians in the RCAF and in the British Air Forces. So incredible contributions. But D-Day really has become that focal point. And it's a day I think we don't often celebrate as Canadians. We're not great at talking about what we've done, but of course the 3rd Canadian Division landed with 2 British divisions and 2 American divisions. We were there, the Allied striking force. And I think 75 years later now we can really reflect upon the incredible acts of courage and bravery and sacrifice that were required by Canadians, as you say, to hit that beach, to move forward, to keep fighting through Normandy, and ultimately to end the Second World War.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about. And part of our coverage of the 75th anniversary of D-Day is about trying to get younger generations to think about this too and help them connect with veterans of the Second World War. And CBC News Kids did that to engage with some of these people and try and get a better sense of our history directly from them.
I'm Quinn, and today I met Mr. George Chow. He went to the recruiting office in Victoria 2 months before his 19th birthday. His parents didn't know he was going. During the Normandy invasion, he was part of the 2nd Army Group Royal Artillery. This is what he remembers from those experiences.
August 26, 1940, I went to down the Victoria Bay Street Armories, walked in there, and he says, "You want to join the Army?" I said, "Yes." Yeah. Everything was yes. Within 4 hours of that same day, I was in uniform. Yeah.
Wow. What was the crossing like, getting to the beach?
All I can remember was we were on the barge, we came off the barge, and then I saw the bombers, hundreds of guns, just continuous firing,
How would you say the war changed your life?
Well, quite often I think of, my buddies that have passed away. What can you do? They're our heroes. The world's just lucky to come back. That's all.
Oh man, I just love George Chow. He was also at that 75th anniversary and was honored there for his participation in what he did. And you can see there on your screen, this is the beginning of the arrivals of the official dignitaries, starting with the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. And of course, last year he was not here because he was in France, I believe, right? Commemorating the end of the armistice, 100 years since the end of the First World War.
That's right.
So he's here again this year, but I would imagine next year, 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, he will likely have to make an appearance somewhere else as well. But this is one of these what I would say sort of important, nice parts of the job where you get to represent the country in many ways here at the National War Memorial.
Yeah, I think it is an important day for our leaders. I think of our two prime ministers who were veterans, Pearson and Diefenbaker, both from the Great War, but we haven't had a prime minister who was a veteran since then.
Yeah.
But I think it's a day where our prime ministers certainly reflect upon their important role in our democracy in times of war.
Well, and the decisions they make too that ultimately impact, what's going to happen to Canadian forces and what's going to happen to the direction of this country.
That's right.
And there have been some of those decisions in recent years, none perhaps as dramatic as the mission in Afghanistan.
That's right. Yeah, I think of our prime ministers who, when running for office, almost never think and see themselves as leaders of a wartime country, but think of Sir John A. Macdonald and the Fenians and the internal battles and wars, the 1885 resistance. Think of Laurier with the South African War, Borden at the First World War, Mackenzie King in the Second World War, Saint Laurent in the Korean War. We can keep going forward, but all of our Cold War prime ministers having to deal with conflict and war, it's a tremendous stress and strain.
Yes.
And I think up to the modern day of what we will do, the pressure of putting young men and women in harm's way must be tremendous.
And you could see this line of dignitaries that received the Prime Minister and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau. Some of those faces actually may change over the next week or so. The Minister of Veterans Affairs, Lawrence Mccauley, the Speaker of the House of Commons even, all those jobs sort of up for discussion and maybe for change come November 20th when the Prime Minister announces his new cabinet, and probably we'll get a sense this week too when the House will be recalled, when Parliament will be recalled. He's meeting with opposition leaders to make that decision.
The National Silver Cross mother, Mrs. Wren Sampson Daw, is arriving accompanied by her husband, Mr. Peter Daw. Mrs. Sampson Daw of Kingston, Ontario, is the mother of Captain Matthew J. Daw. Captain Daw died in Afghanistan on July 4, 2007, while returning from a mission in that country. He died along with 5 Canadian soldiers and an Afghan interpreter after his vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb. Captain Daw was the commander of 8 Platoon, C Company, 3 Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry Battalion. His company was part of 2 Royal Canadian Regiment battle groups serving in Kandahar, Afghanistan. Mesdames et Messieurs, la mère nationale de la Croix d'Argent, Madame Wren Sampson Daw, arrive, accompagnée de son mari, Monsieur Peter Daw. Madame Sampson Daw de Kingston, en Ontario, est la mère du capitaine Matthew J. Daw. Le capitaine Daw est décédé en Afghanistan le 4 juillet 2007 en rentrant d'une mission dans ce pays. Il est mort avec 5 soldats canadiens et un interprète afghan après que son véhicule eut été arrêté.
So a nice welcome from the crowd there for Wren Sampson Daw and her husband Peter, who also served in the military. Remember, a reminder too that Wren Daw is really here to represent all mothers, all fathers, spouses even, who have maybe lost someone. And she was viewing today as a very important day, not just for her personally, but to represent all mothers. I had the pleasure of spending a fair amount of time with her in her house just outside of Kingston. Her whole family. All 3 of Matthew's brothers served in the military, and of course his father, Peter. So this is a family that knows an awful lot about public service, why it matters, and has dedicated a lot of their life to supporting Canada. And you'll hear a little bit more from her on the National tonight. She's just a lovely, brave woman, just a great mom. So hopefully you'll get to know her a little bit more later too, as we await now the arrival of the Governor General, Julie Payette. That, of course, is the Governor General, Julie Payette, the Commander-in-Chief, who is allowed to wear the uniform of her choice today. And today she's wearing the Army uniform of the Canadian Armed Forces. Last year she donned the Navy uniform. And it's a special way as well for her to mark her role with the Canadian Forces and to pay tribute to them. And that's how she's choosing to do it today. And she will now stand in front of the veterans, people still serving.
Royal salute! Salute!
That, of course, was the Vice-Regal Salute, a salute played to the Governor General and Lieutenant Governors, performed by the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces. Now the Vice-Regal Party will take position for the ceremony. Greet, of course, the dignitaries, the Silver Cross Mother and her husband, Peter, Prime Minister. And we'll let you just now watch and listen to the ceremony as it unfolds. And we'll come in if we feel there's something that needs to be explained, but otherwise we'll let you sit back and watch our special Remembrance Day coverage here in the nation's capital. Governor General there, just so you know, meeting with youth representatives from the different wings of the Canadian Armed Forces, different divisions of the Canadian Armed Forces. They're actually a little ahead of schedule, which is highly unusual for Remembrance Day, but here we are. Just to give you a sense of what will happen now, there'll be the singing of O Canada performed by the band of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Ottawa Children's Choir. And then we'll hear prayers and the last post, the 21-gun salute, all the parts of this ceremony that are so deeply moving, so poignant, and so sort of drenched in ceremony, in what you would expect from a day like this. Tim, maybe just while we wait for things to officially get underway, the Governor General wearing the uniform, I'm not sure when that started or if it's always been, but it is a way, I guess, to signal what her role is in relation to the Canadian Armed Forces.
That's right, yes, as commander of the Armed Forces, as symbolic of the representative of the Queen. Many of our Governor Generals in the past were serving senior officers who had served. I think of General Alexander and others. And it is an opportunity here for our leaders, our symbolic leaders, to come and to pay tribute, I think, and to meet people. And I know that it's important for them to meet the young people, as we're seeing here, to meet the veterans. And this is a day that is very poignant for those. And I think, as we talked about before, perhaps one of their more important ceremonial roles to represent for all Canadians.
I should tell you, while it is a chilly day here in Ottawa, they are suggesting already that there are tens of thousands of people lining the streets, quite deep along Elgin here and Wellington. Those are the two streets in and around Parliament Hill, and here the National War Memorial. It is a federal holiday, so many of civil servants obviously take their day off and use it to appear here at the ceremony. That's also been a point of some, I don't know if it's contention, but questions. That lots of kids go to school on Remembrance Day. It's certainly how I had my first sort of experience with Remembrance Day. But some people have wondered whether everyone should have a day off.
That's right. It's an ongoing discussion. It's for decades and decades, and I think the children across this country are in their schools today, right now, in ceremonies. And I think that's a good thing. But it is a discussion. After the Second World War, there was an interesting debate about changing Remembrance Day. There was some talk of moving it to the 6th of June.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Ils ne vieilliront pas comme nous qui
They
leur
shall
avons
not grow
survécu.
old as we that are left
Ils ne
grow old.
connaîtront jamais l'outrage,
Age
ni le
shall
poids
not
des
weary
années.
them, nor the years
Quand
condemn.
viendra l'heure du crépuscule et
At the
celle de
going down
l'aurore,
of the sun and in the
nous
morning,
nous souviendrons d'eux.
we will remember them.
Parakoma pio acha. Kestanno ni tama pio pi. Hotstoim swai. Marak tsiko acha. Kestanno ni stoim sinni. Hagoman staschenoya. Ast kapisinato sewa. Kjota meskabiskaskanatonis. Akoman staschenoya. Akoman staschenoya.
We gather today from across Canada to offer our thanks for those who have gone before us in the cause of freedom and peace. May our humble efforts this morning resonate with the noble efforts of those whom we name this day aloud or in the silence of our hearts. In respecting individual beliefs and conscience, I invite you to take this moment for contemplation. Dans le respect des croyances individuelles et de
With
la
deep
conscience de
respect for
chacun et
individual
chacune,
beliefs and personal
je vous invite
conscience,
à prendre ce
I
moment
invite you to take
de
this
recueillement.
moment for contemplation.
As we remember those heroes who have gone before us, please join me by responding, "We will remember them." Alors que nous nous souvenons de ces héros qui nous ont précédés,
This morning,
veillez,
as we
s'il vous
remember
plaît,
those
vous
heroes
joindre
who
à
have
moi
gone before
en
us,
répondant,
please join me by responding,
nous nous souviendrons d'eux
We will
chaque
remember
fois que
them.
je prononcerai ces mots.
each time I say those words.
In the presence of our veterans, the living embodiment of valor and service, we pause to remember our men and women who serve our country, that we might live in freedom and peace. We will remember them. Nous nous souvenons également du 75e
We
anniversaire.
also remember the 75th anniversary of the Italian campaign.
Nous rendons grâce pour la
May
détermination
we
de
offer
ces
thanks
militaires,
for the
pour
determination,
la force et la volonté
for the strength
nécessaires
and the will
pour faire face aux
which
épreuves.
were required to face the hardships of that campaign.
Alors que nous nous souvenons du nombre de
While
ceux
we
et
may
celles
remember the numbers of
qui ont
those who
combattu
fought
et
and
qui sont
died,
morts, ceux et celles qui ont perdu un être
those
cher
who lost loved
se
ones,
souviennent d'un nom,
remember
d'un visage.
names and faces.
Nous nous souviendrons d'eux.
We will remember them.
We remember the Canadians whose place of birth was beyond the shores of Canada, who fought and died for freedom. We will remember them. It is with deep gratitude that we remember our veterans and serving members who suffer physical or psychological injuries. May we also show great compassion to those who put an end to the struggle of their lives. Those for whom suffering was so intense, whose despair so profound that they were unable to see a way forward. We will remember them. Puissions-nous nourrir l'espérance que la
May
vie
we nourish the
est
hope
plus forte que la mort.
that life is stronger than death.
We pray for the leaders of the world and for those of our country, for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, for the Governor General, the Prime Minister, the Chief of Defense Staff. We gather to affirm with one another our determination to remove the barriers of division in a spirit of reconciliation. We seek dialogue with one another in all spheres, social, political, and religious, that in doing so, we may achieve a lasting peace. May this be so, and may we all strive to continue our efforts to build a better world. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice-Regal Party will now begin placing their wreaths. Mesdames et messieurs, le cortège vice-royal déposera maintenant les couronnes.
on this hallowed area to pay tribute.
Year since the Allied invasion that changed the course of the Second World War and verily the course of human history, we are gathered in this sacred space, sanctified via remembrance and eternally sanctified by the precious blood spilled here. We gather to remember, to express our gratitude, and to translate our gratitude into a vision and a commitment. We are grateful for the supreme sacrifice so many beloved Canadians made and were ready to make on land, in the air, at sea. We are grateful to the dead, the wounded, the survivors, the war bereaved. We are grateful to all the men and women, our Anglophones, Francophones, Indigenous peoples, and veterans of many ethnic and religious communities. We are grateful to them for putting their lives on hold and at risk in order to eliminate tyranny and defend liberty. We are grateful to the younger veterans and the older veterans who gather in mutual respect and admiration as partners in the battle against evil. We are grateful to them for fighting our fight to assure freedom and dignity for everyone, deserving to be celebrated, applauded, and eternally appreciated as authentic heroes. We are grateful to them for their bravery. We are grateful to them for their dignity. We are grateful to them for their selflessness. We are grateful to them for their embrace of Canada. We are grateful to them for the devotion to global freedom and peacekeeping that defines them. We are grateful to them for risking their future on our behalf, and their knowing that even if they return whole in body, they will still be confronted with looming issues from invisible wounds. We are grateful for them for being the unifying inspiration of selflessness and dedication, reminding us of what being Canadian is all about. May those who died be remembered lovingly. May those who are injured be healed in body and spirit. May those who served and continue to serve live out their lives in a world free of terror and suffused with tranquility, the type of world they fought to create and preserve. How do we continually say thank you to our veterans? By embracing them, by hugging them, by expressing our appreciation to every veteran we meet in all places and at all times, by teaching our children how much in their debt we always will be. Let us continue to make Canada worthy of their dedication and sacrifice, a country in which respect, harmony, inclusion, responsibility, and kindness fill the air. On this D-Day's 75th anniversary year, we reflect on the term D-Day. The D in D-Day does not stand for anything specific, but we can make this a specifically D-year, a D-year that stands for everything, everything meaningful. How do we achieve a banner D-year? We achieve that by championing what our veterans fought to protect. Here is a blueprint for a D-year. Let us dazzle in the dynamic devotion to our destiny as a country determined in its dedication to the dignified diversity of its people, as we delight in the delivery of deferential decency with discipline and diligence to assure that we can all live the Canadian dream. God bless our veterans, God bless our troops, God bless all those who stand on guard, peace champions all, here and abroad. God bless Canada. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, God save the Queen. Mesdames et messieurs, que Dieu protège la reine.
Dieu
Ladies and gentlemen, the march-off will soon commence. Our veterans will lead the parade, followed by the Royal Military College of Canada, members of the Royal Canadian Navy, the Canadian Army, and the Royal Canadian Air Force, HMCS Carleton, the Governor General's Foot Guards, the Cameron Highlanders of Ottawa, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, cadets from the Navy, Army, and Air Cadet organizations, and the Navy League Cadets of Canada, and the 30th Field Regiment, Royal Canadian Artillery. Mesdames et Messieurs, le défilé de sortie avec les vétérans en tête débutera sous peu, suivi par le Collège royal militaire du Canada, les membres de la Marine royale du Canada, de l'armée canadienne et de l'aviation royale canadienne. NCSM Carleton, les Governor General's Foot Guards, les Cameron Highlanders of Ottawa, la Gendarmerie royale du Canada, les cadets de la Marine, de l'Armée et de l'Air, et les cadets de la Ligue navale du Canada, et le 30e Régiment d'artillerie de campagne de l'Artillerie royale du Canada. Thank you for your attendance at the National Remembrance Day ceremony. Today, as a grateful nation, we stand in collective remembrance of all who have fallen in the military service of Canada. May we never forget.
So nice to see you again.
Place a wreath at the National
You are as well every time you were here with us.
Oh, I have so many layers.
Me too. I have 2 sets of pajamas. We're coming tomorrow to see a friend of ours is getting us over. Yes, I hope you. I'm looking forward to it. I want our.
We want that back Washington thing.
Yeah, Grandis, come on, come on.
He doesn't mind. For sure.
Thanks a lot.
How are you? I'm freezing. Doing good thing here. We're trying. We have no father. Warmer, yes, yes.
Serving. Are you still good?
There will be a concluding presentation this evening.
And that ends the official part of this Remembrance Day ceremony with the dignitaries. We wanted to listen in a little bit to the Governor General making her way through the crowd and talking to veterans because sometimes those exchanges can be revealing, although the only part I learned there is that she has many, many layers on, which is a good idea. I have a heater, but most people have to have many layers in order to get through that hour of exposure outside. Right now we are waiting for the march off, which is the moment when veterans of any kind gather and sort of march through the streets of Ottawa, which becomes the end of the ceremony, the moment when they get their moment, if you will. Before that, you saw, of course, the dignitaries place their wreaths at the base of the National War Memorial, followed by veterans, representatives and groups, Indigenous and others, and of course dignitaries as well, some of the embassies that are in Ottawa and others.
Good morning, sir.
And once that is all done, people here that have gathered, there are tens of thousands of them, you can't see them all even on your screen, but piled way far back along the streets, they will also get a chance to come up to the memorial. Many people choosing to place their poppy on the tomb of the unknown soldier as this official part of the ceremony of Remembrance Day comes to a close. We'll talk to a few people still in the crowd and a few veterans to get their thoughts on what they saw and heard. I knew some of these stories of these people. You saw that lovely lady with the white hair there in the front refused to sit down for the entire ceremony, even though there are chairs put out for some of the veterans. Nope, she said, I'm standing here. And that is the case for so many, of course, of these veterans that come. Regardless of the weather or their health or how they're feeling, they are present defiantly and proudly so on this day, as are so many Canadians. And David Thornton is in the crowd with some of them. Let's go to him now to hear from him. David?
Hey, Rosie, this crowd is getting larger and larger. It got larger and larger as the ceremony progressed. It's stretching for several blocks. And in the crowd here with me right now are some students. It's a normal day of school for children here in Ottawa, but this school decided to come on down as part of a field trip. Tell me what school you're from.
Aaaah Educational Centre.
Aaaah Education Centre. And you all have been learning about Canada's history when it comes to the Second and the First Wars. Tell me about what are some of the most interesting things you've been learning about.
We've been learning about the Second Battle of Ypres, the Battle of the Somme, the Battle of Vimy Ridge, and the Battle of Patton. Those were all the battles in World War I.
How about you?
We learned about women started to work when men were away at war. It was really nice to hear that.
What would you say is the most interesting thing that you've been learning?
So I find it really interesting how much the Canadians contributed to the First World War. They made a fairly large difference to the war effort, in particular in the Battle of Vimy Ridge, which I think is just very interesting. And it's really important to look at how many Canadians fought for Canada, and it's just really important that we're here and we're commemorating that effort that they all put into keeping Canada a free country.
So, Rosie, this is about 20 students who have gathered here, and their teacher is just behind them right now, and you brought them out here. So just tell us about why was it so important to come on down here today?
Yeah, so I think it's one thing to learn about Canada and the war effort and all the things that Canadians have done in class, and it's another thing to come down to a ceremony like this, let the kids see veterans, hear people speak about the war, and get that first-hand account of why we remember and why it's so important that we thank our soldiers for everything that they've done for us, past soldiers and present soldiers.
Absolutely. Ms. Townsend, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. David will stay in the crowd there and talk to people as the march-off continues down along Elgin onto Wellington Street. Tim, you wanted to jump in there.
Well, I just think, isn't it heartening to see those young people there? This is a day where we often say, lest we forget, but it can be difficult to know what to remember. And I think days like this, remembrance, it takes work, it takes effort. And we have a lot of great teachers across this country, a lot of young people who want to learn. People often ask me, isn't it sad that young people don't know enough? And I say, in fact, I think they know quite a lot. And we just saw a little bit of that there. And we see how, while Canada, I think, is very proud of its peacekeeping forces, and we see ourselves as a peaceful nation, and we certainly are, we're also a country that's been shaped by war. And I think that is reflected just what we heard there in those young people.
Just watching these faces, this is a great moment for all these people that are choosing to march now down Wellington Street, away from the National War Memorial, past the dignitaries and past from Parliament Hill. Hannah Thibodeau is with a veteran now. Hannah.
Hi, Rosie. I have a very special dignitary. This is Robert Spencer. And Mr. Spencer, you were a part after D-Day, correct?
Yeah, the breakout.
You were part of the breakout. Now,
We were
explain.
an armored division.
You were an
yeah.
What was it like that day?
It was tremendous. Big battle, hard fighting, even with the artillery moving very closely with the armor and the infantry.
So that was 75 years ago.
Oh, man.
And if
99.
Yeah, 1 second. We're going to wish him a happy birthday in a second. Now, Mr. Spencer, tell me what you think about on Remembrance Day here, in that moment of silence.
Well, I think back to the old days. It's a long time ago, but the memory is fresh.
What's fresh in your mind?
Well, I think that was part of a greater adventure. Danger, but survived.
What do you think think of all the people who came out to pay tribute to people like you today?
Well, I think it's fantastic that they do come out. Shows a real appreciation of this past.
Now, Rosie, you were just saying
I didn't realize my mic was up, so I stole your thunder, but
You did steal my thunder.
I can't believe it. You go ahead.
Yes, he turned 99
Amazing.
years young yesterday.
Amen.
Amen, he said. Happy birthday to you. What'd you do for your birthday?
Well, we had a party.
You had a party.
Yeah.
And that was a great party. Rosie, I think, is wishing you a happy birthday.
I am. You can give him a birthday hug for me, Hannah. Yeah.
Oh, that's the warmest I've been all day.
Okay,
I wish
Mr.
you'd
Spencer,
come earlier.
he wishes I came earlier for his birthday hug. Well, thank you for your service, and it's such a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, thank you. Yes, you're too good.
All right, and now Hannah's going to go home with Mr. Spencer, probably. It's a good way to celebrate your 99th birthday. Thanks for that, Hannah. Just those, I mean, I love to see, I can't even, first of all, to still be standing and in that good shape at 99, but to come down here and to be so committed to showing up and talking about it. It's remarkable.
You're saying, right, 33,000 Second World War veterans left. Gentlemen like that is just incredible to see, to hear their stories. As he said, the memory is fresh. The memory is 75 years ago, and much is forgotten, but there are experiences that are seared into the mind, into the soul, perhaps. And I think to have eyewitnesses like that still is so important. And I think we're moving towards a period where we will lose all of our Second World War veterans. It will be in 5 or 10 years. It won't diminish this day, I think. This day will live on, as it has for the Great War, as you have said. And yet, something will be lost. And I think it's important for we as Canadians to turn to veterans of all ages, of all generations, to listen to them. For many years, we didn't listen to them. We didn't acknowledge them. And I think we have a greater sense of our own collective history now. It's important to record them, to have them write their stories, and for us to archive them as a country.
Yeah. David Thornton is in the crowd, and he's got a guest for us now, David.
Rosie, the crowd is starting to thin a little bit. The ceremony is over and it's cold, so a lot of people are heading home, but not Marlene Hebert. She is, thankfully still with us. So, Marlene, you were telling me about your connections to Remembrance Day and Canada's veterans. Just tell me about that again.
Well, my grandfather was in the First World War, the New Brunswick Kilties, I think they were called, and my father was in the Second World War. He was injured, but he came back, thank God. And my husband, he's Air Force, and I have worked for National Defense for 40 years, so I got a big connection with the military and this.
And you live within the Ottawa area, and whenever you can, you come to the National Monument.
Yes.
Why is it so important?
It's just everything all mixed together, It's just so emotional. And I don't know what it is about being down here, but it's very important to me to be here. Leave my poppy on the tomb afterwards when it's all over, and it just makes me happy.
You've got the poppy in the hat and the poppy scarf, looking beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that, David. Okay, we're going to go to another one of these letters home that we have been featuring throughout our special. These letters that were written by veterans, by soldiers, sent back to their families as they were living through these difficult moments. Here's one now.
This is a letter I wrote home in 1944 to my wife Betty, after she had written to tell me the sad news of the loss of our best man who had been killed. Darling, I'm really sorry to hear about David. That is one of the worst blows yet. I like David enormously. Having worked with some of the men of his unit, I can only guess what happened. It was a night patrol, and it is honestly a pity.
Thibodeau is with Mr. Anderson now. He's also here. Hannah, over to you.
Thank you, Rosie. Yes, I am joined by Bill Anderson. Now, Mr. Anderson, 75 years ago,
yes,
you were in France for D-Day. Tell us what it was like to go back this year.
I was not there for D-Day. I was there 6 days after D-Day as a reinforcement officer. And I then joined the 5th Anti-Tank Regiment. When I got there, it was calm and quiet because it was 6 days after D-Day. When we went back this year, they asked if I wanted to walk down to the beach and get my feet wet, and my wonderful companion Nancy said he didn't get his feet wet when he came in the first time. He's not going to do it this time.
So you stayed dry.
Yes.
What was it like going back again this year?
Oh, it was wonderful. Just a wonderful visit. It really was.
Today on Remembrance Day, when you have that moment of silence, what do you think about?
Oh. All the nice things and the sad things. And they all mingled and jumbled together. It's a very big day.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost worth the cold.
It's definitely worth the cold for us.
Oh, it's a sacrifice. I'd like to put a dome over the whole thing.
Keep you a little bit warmer?
A little bit warmer.
Now, when you came here today, what was the thing you wanted to say?
I wanted to see and be seen and be part of the support our veterans deserve. It's so important for everybody to understand that there are things to be remembered. And the veterans have an opportunity to stand up and be counted. You can't join a veterans group. It's a very rare society. And we should be proud of being veterans.
Well, we are definitely proud of you, and it was a real privilege for me to get to speak with you.
Well, it's always pleasant to see you, and you're a wonderful broadcaster.
Well, thank you so much. And that is probably the kindest thing anybody can say to me, Rosie, is have this 97-year-old veteran tell me I'm a wonderful broadcaster. Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson.
It's a joy to see you always.
And you enjoy your lunch over the chateau.
Thank you.
Rosie.
Thank you, Hannah, and thanks to Mr. Anderson as well, of course. And I'll bring in Tim Cook. The line there that Mr. Anderson said, he just wants to see and be seen.
Yeah.
That really struck me, because that is part of what today is about.
It is, isn't it?
Maybe we don't think about this stuff enough, and maybe people's lives are busy, or they're not thinking about history enough, and this is a day where you're sort of forced to see and be seen, right?
Yeah, to reflect upon, to commemorate. It's a day of pride. We saw that through many of them, but it's also a day of grief. It's a day, I think, as Hannah said there, of great emotion. It stirs us, and I think it reminds us of our shared history together, and that there are veterans. And we've talked a lot about the Second World War veterans. There's the Korean War veterans, the peacekeepers, the Afghanistan veterans, who I met an Afghanistan veteran who's 55 years old, and in my head I was trying to do that math, but of course he was maybe 35, 36, 37 when he went in 2002, 2003. So our veterans are here, they're with us. it's perhaps...
Maybe look different than we might expect.
That's right, yeah. And it's a changing group, and we know that we're losing them. And I think one thing that always strikes me on this day is the debt. What is the debt that we owe to this Canadians, these generations who have served and sacrificed? And I think most of us agree that those who come back injured, we need to take care of them. There's a greater sense of the invisible injuries now. But another part of that debt, I think, is a day like this, to recognize and to remember and to mark and to commemorate. And I think we are doing that.
Yes. And we're going to do that one more time with one of our letters home again from a soldier, a veteran, who sent back word from what they were doing on the front lines. Take a listen.
My name is Diane Abel. I'm a Silver Cross mother. I lost my son Michael. Today I'm reading the first letter I received from him. 7th of January 93. The potential situation is tensing up. Mogadishu is closed while the two clans leaders we see on CNN shaking hands battle each other with indiscriminate artillery, random shootings, ambushes of food convoys, raids on the coalition forces, rock throwing. All leads to the possibility of an escalation, but that's not our fight yet. Our job is as remote to save the Somali famine as you can get. We're here to intimidate the warlords. It's a difficult task. Well, that's enough of that for now. Bye. Love, Michael.
Just one more of our letters home that we've been trying to feature throughout this broadcast, and you can find more of that online too. I don't know if we're able to take a shot now of the Prime Minister there. He is getting ready to leave, but has waded into the crowd a bit to greet some of the Canadians that came out to share this Remembrance Day ceremony with him. And the VIPs, if you will, the special guests are starting to leave as the ceremony winds down. And David Thornton, you are still out there with the crowds too, David.
Yeah, I'm here with Nancy Bourgeois, and she has this, quite the picture here. Can you just tell us about, what you're holding here?
This is a picture of my dad's regiment when he was in the Second World War overseas in England. From 1939 to 45, he was a paramedic. He used to go and pick up wounded soldiers.
And you had this frame, so where does this hang? This hangs in your house, right?
Yeah, it was handed. This picture was the frame of my brother-in-law that made it for the picture. And this is a copy of the original one.
This means so much to you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for joining us. And Rosie, you see so many of these things, so many of these pictures, so many of these medals, so many of these mementos throughout the day in the crowd. It's, people's connection, it's Nancy's connection, and, some of our connections to, Canada's past and Canada's history. I'll send it back to you, Rosie.
Okay, David, thank you for your help with our coverage today. I know it's your first Remembrance Day here as well, so good job. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And let's go to Hannah Thibodeau now for a final thought as we wrap up our coverage. Hannah.
Hey, Rosie. Well, I'm watching the people on the side of the road here clap and cheer as veterans walk by, and I just have to say this is one of my favorite Remembrance Days. I think I say it every year, though, to be able to speak with those two veterans who were in Normandy 75 years ago. It just makes my heart swell to be able to share those types of stories with viewers, and it's something that I think we have to continue to do, is tell the stories of our veterans so that people remember and know what type of sacrifice they've made.
Hey, Hannah, always good to have you here for Remembrance Day, and appreciate your special bond with so many of those veterans that you've known through the years. Many thanks. Here's the Prime Minister. I'll just show you one last shot of some of the young contest winners who won a contest to get here today to be able to be part of the ceremony and, take pictures with the Prime Minister, as you do. Let me say a big thank you to Hannah Thibodeau, David Thornton, and to Tim Cook, who joins me every year. And it's always a pleasure to have you and be able to rely on your immense immense brain about military history.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for us. There'll be continuing coverage, of course, of Remembrance Day on CBC News Network, online, and I'll be back for a special edition of The National later tonight here from the National War Memorial. As always, a privilege to join you on this Remembrance Day. No matter where you are, no matter where you're from, take a moment to remember. Thank you.